Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student, or if you're a human being. Because you don't have to be interested in Pilates at all to gain knowledge of the theory of core new tension in your body, and you can use that in however you want to move. So core new tension is biomechanical, and Michael Miller Pilates is just one point of view between yours and mine and everybody else's. Okay? So I have, is it 2 or 3? Just 2 titles today. And in my theme of the visual of the earth going around, well, when it goes around once, that's one day, and it's one day until the solstice, summer solstice, 2020, 3:43 p.m. Rocky Mountain time. So my email that went out today had the short title of Living in Cornu. And I see it's 12:02, so my second email is coming out as I speak, because it was pre-planned. But in the early email and reinforcing in this email that's scheduled out now anytime is a recognition of core new tension and how that relates to the body, our body, the human being. See, if this is the human being, the skeleton, right? The spine from the side. See the skull? And so looking that way. So we're on their left side, and that's the shape of their spine. And see how now the shape of the spine here matches the kind of engagement of rotational dynamic that this sits on. So I've been promoting buying a t-shirt for the last 20 days, and because you wear then the image of Cornu, and you at least wear it on your body, which is some sign of identification. Maybe not, maybe somebody else gave it to you and you have no idea what it represents. There's one. So, that was a good grab. There is a top spinning. It's part of the world that we live in, and part of the characteristic of mass and rotation. See, my email has been sent. Is that little announcement there? And it's talking about living within Cornu, and I'm talking about here we are in gravity. We're human beings, each of us and every one of us so far are human beings, and we're living as water balloons moving through gravity, through air, trying to swim like a fish through an ocean of air, except we're heavier. That's why we can't fly. It's not about even Cornu being inside of you. See, in that this this sacrosanct point of view we take as though we are at the center of all mystery that cannot be explained, which probably is true. But the world in which we live, a lot of it is pretty consistent, like gravity, like rotation. And so, when you look at this shell and recognize that it has an axis around which it rotates or has spiraled out from, right? Is it just arbitrary that this shell chose to come out in that expression? No, we live in gravity. And we're trying to survive in gravity. In gravity. Sorry, got my signals mixed up. Trying to survive in gravity. And so when you recognize that this isn't the kind of structure that your body is in, you have this fabulous biological organism that has rotational dynamic axes that interact with each other, connected to each other. And it's through that connection of core new tension, I maintain I'm holding light to the truth of how the body engages itself to move through space. Number 2. Surviving. Joseph Pilates was a survivor. His method is survival training. And he defines it as the complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. The brand of Michael Miller Pilates comes from the theory that it's an experience, and that experience is a coordination of being, thinking, and observing in the pursuit of the choreography, the mat itself. Right? Both the choreography and the state of being you seek to perform the movement in aspire to resonate with the ideal nature of the reality we find ourselves in. So when you're training Pilates, you're training to continue surviving. You're training to be coordinated in your being, thinking, and observing, to be more present, and then of course how you move your body, and to the extent that you do Pilates, meaning a uniform eccentric loading, flowing through progressive patterns of movement. That's the MMP definition that offers up an explanation of what the experience is all about. Or at least has something to do with it. But that's the MMP definition. So you have Joe's definition, you have the definition of MMP, and you're locked and loaded for bear in terms of understanding, or at least being able to represent, not only Joe's representation, but a unique point of view that represents an explanation based on Joe's words. And you add you to that, so surviving. And the note that I had to go along with that, observing, which was my point. And solstice, the reason for solstice is because it's observable. And entire cultures, entire civilizations relied on observing the change in seasons to plant their crops that they survived on the success of. Observing, knowing what's going on around you, being more present, being more coordinated in body, mind, and spirit. So I often heard teachers taking classes, taking a workshop kind of thing, getting introduced to CT and MMP, but that there was an explanation to Pilates, because throughout the culture of Pilates, it exists in folklore that's pretty much self-interested in not having it have an explanation. And so when teachers to me would say, not to me or to others, they'd say, it sets you free. It really sets you free. It's like having an explanation sets you free from the slavery of an aristocracy that would have you believe the aristocracy was the only source of authority, regardless of explanation. So, like it or not, reality is what it is. Pilates, from the MMP point of view, is what it is. It's what you make of them that is up to you. So when I say living within Cornu, it's the rotational capability that our organism has, the ability to make rotation at the hips, that gives us some degree of stability, like the top. The fact that our body has evolved beyond here to having multiple endpoints of rotation. We can rotate here, and we can rotate here, and those rotational dynamics are connected to each other and create tension. And in creating tension between those 2 points, utilizes as much uniform engagement of musculature as possible. So whether it's between shoulders and hips, or ears and shoulders, the oppositional rotation between axes creates a tension that is eccentric, because the going into takes the surplus off and they presses out against each other. So the axes press out away from one another to the extent that they engage in the tension. Just one point of view. Perhaps it's too threatening a point of view. Sherry, Christy. Perhaps it's too threatening a point of view to actually teach so openly that there's your body and your thinking and something that's going on beyond your thinking. When all it really means is you just have to pay attention. You have to be observing what's going on and connected to what you're observing. You have to be paying attention. That's all it means. But that attention, that connection to what you're sensing, right, is taking in raw data to all the thinking. And I think all the thinking would like to think that all the thinking is what is that there is. Thinking is all that there is. The trick in Pilates is to connect your observing to your thinking and your moving in an attempt at control, by expressing the choreography, the dance, the movements, as ideally as possible. Understanding the order helps you remember it. That's my number 3. Understanding the order helps you remember it. And for me, it's like stomach massage to long box, going from seated to a platform above the floor. What was my other example? Semicircle into arms, knowing that the semicircle is taking you through an undulation decompression of the spine, and that after that you go from controlling at the hips, at the hip axis, to when you come up and start doing kneeling arm, chest expansion, thigh stretch, turn around, arm circles, all kneeling on the reformer. The transition of doing the semicircle, which is an undulation stretch on the spine kind of thing, is that you go from controlling, how do I do this? Like this. Here at the hips. And then you do the semicircle to get all warmed up and come out to the challenge of doing chest expansion and thigh stretch and turnaround arm circles, but stability at this axis. So the progressive pattern in Joe's work is progressive in loading as well. It's like, let's get control here, right? You know this. Control the center. From the center, move out away and control further away from center. Well, that's how I remember what comes after the semicircle. Is I've done this luscious stretch through the spine and come out to a place where it's time to establish control at the shoulders at that end point. My notes are all flying. I gotta go. My voice is running out and I still have to go to Facebook. Okay? So the 1, the 2, and the 3 the more you understand why the exercises are in the order that they're in, the easier it is to remember them when you're working your way through your sequence, whether that's the reformer or the mat, especially the mat. And actually both, right? The more you know about why the order is what it is, which assumes that there is a reason for it, which MMP does, the more you understand why, the easier it is to remember the order. And that makes you more familiar with it. That lets you press the flow to find the fusion of body, mind, and spirit. Because until you're familiar, it's really hard to do that. So one more day. Tomorrow, maybe today for you. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain. Pick up on these 2 theories that my wife has resolved into, wanting you to be able to make money on explaining. And if I can help you make money doing that, beyond what I'm already doing, if you buy a t-shirt, if you just write down the 5 things, if you've listened to any of my previous broadcasts, but you have to buy into, I guess, the notion that these 2 theories, that you connect with them, and This is where the sales job is easiest, because both of those theories you can feel, right? They're sensational. You can feel them. So if you're pressed to the point of needing to stand out in a way that stands out, your awareness of, your knowledge of core nutension and the point of view of MMP, michaelmillerpilates, what's that point of view? That it's an experience. It's a complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. And MMP celebrates its brand, its way of looking at Pilates on summer solstice. Because it links survival for entire civilizations depending upon observing. It's that important, and it can be that important for you to be observing what's going on around you, so you don't step out in front of a speeding vehicle, or just one going normal speed. Something moving that you should see coming. Thank you for indulging the focus on the convention. I hope you've enjoyed the emails, and last year's emails did a far better job of trying to give a sense of CT and MMP. And then buying a t-shirt puts the authority right there on your chest. Make an offer to explain it for $2 for 20 minutes. Offer expires in 20 minutes, and I got to be paid in advance. Or it's paid in advance, however you want to say it. But you have to be paid before you make the delivery, because it influences the delivery. Know how to add 2 and 2. Live, yank, live forever. Read between the lines. See behind the curtain. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view. Know how to add 2 and 2 by making an offer. And then direct your thinking. Geist.